podcast where we as a group finally go through all those movies on our collective DVD shelves and Netflix queues to introduce each other to different films. I'm your moderator, Michelle, and here with me are your other hosts.
I'm Adam Neal.
I'm JJ Jones.
So this week we're trying something new. Usually we give our initial impressions after we watch the movie, but this time we're going to kind of just give our blind impressions. So we haven't watched it yet, so this week we're watching The Manchurian Candidate, and based on what you know about the movie so far, we'll start with JJ since he hasn't seen it. What are your initial impressions, JJ?
I know the basic premise is that the guy, I'm assuming, from a bunch of different things referencing this, the main character is brainwashed so that a certain keyword kicks off his assassination of some sort of world leader, and that's pretty much all I know from there. I know it's a pretty good movie. It's been the idea has been lifted in so many different things that I'm really curious to see sort of the I don't know if this is technically the very first time it was ever adapted, I'm assuming, because it was a novel, right?
Probably.
Okay. I'm not sure it's the first time, but I know it's probably where a lot of the stuff that later years has referenced the work sort of came from. So yeah, I'm excited, very curious. What year did it come out? I forget.
1962.
Okay, so 60s movie. Okay, pre-1970s. Yay.
Mm-hmm. This is when the Red Scare was kind of dying down, but actually no, scratch that. It wasn't dying down because the Cuban Missile Crisis happened this year.
Oh yeah, oof. Lots of fun.
Just going off, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I can already tell you that you're kind of close.
Oh, okay.
You're kind of close, but there's a few details that are pretty huge that are wrong.
This is trying to glean information from. It's a giant telephone game of, okay, I know this work is referencing it, and it might have, 2 or 3 aspects that it picked up. And then this work is referencing it, and it's picked up a couple different aspects. So I'm kind of like guessing from a couple different, probably just mostly TV shows that I could think of, and different things that have used this sort of, the overall concept of guy has been brainwashed, has a command word. Hell, even, what was it? Winter Soldier kind of used this with...
it definitely used it. I mean, Iron Man even directly called Winter Soldier Manchurian Candidate in Civil War.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought you were going to tell me that you watched the Denzel remake.
No, I have never seen any actual Manchurian Candidate movies.
I mean, this has nothing to do with the movie that we're talking about. The 2000s remake is pretty decent.
Oh, really?
I think this is better. And it's also it's heightened by the time it came out in. But hey,
it's Denzel Washington. Of course, it's going to be pretty decent.
But this is just me just going off of my remembering of the story structure, and that's it. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. All
right. Well, is that all y'all have to say about your initial impressions? Are you ready to start watching the movie, or?
I do have one thing to say. I am so eager to see your reaction to Frank Sinatra's acting, and it's not.
Hold on, we have to stop for a moment. Who the heck is in this movie? Frank Sinatra's in this movie?
He's the main character.
That's cool.
I had no idea, actually.
Yeah, you have Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, and Janet Leigh as front listers.
What?
Yeah.
Why the hell have I never seen this movie? Okay, yeah.
So yeah, this is. I think this is going to be a treat because a lot of times when you see people in different businesses, like the music business or even the wrestling business, step out of their respective fields into acting, you can get some very mixed results.
Yeah.
And I'm eager to see
Hulk Hogan or Dwayne Johnson.
And I know what I think of him, but I can't wait to hear what you think of him.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's awesome. I had absolutely no idea. So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's take a short break, and after we watch the movie, we'll be right back and give you a summary and all our thoughts on the film. See you in a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're back. We just watched the Manchurian Candidate. JJ, your thoughts?
Damn good overall. Very pleasantly surprised. I can see why a lot of things have, aped this movie throughout the years. Yeah, it had fantastic plot, great acting from Frank Sinatra. The overall feel for the piece was very good. I think you could go into it. You could definitely go into it not knowing anything about the Red Scare and just kind of the time period and still be able to enjoy it. But if you know anything about the time period, it makes it a hell of a lot better. The villains just overall are not scenery chewing, but just so wonderfully happy to be a villain. Like, they also seem, well, kind of messed up people. They did seem like people, and that's kind of rare for this. Well, I guess, what was it? Was it 60? Was it early 60s or late 60s?
The movie came out in 62, but I think the movie takes place in 1955, I think.
Okay, that would make sense. But this early, like 50s into 60s, you don't get villains quite this, I don't want to say relatable, but understandable. They do feel like actual individuals instead of like, well, they can get a bit full of themselves, wahaha, evil at times. They're not like they're not Bond villain level, individuals. Even though I guess arguably their plot, what they're doing is kind of that way. So, yeah, no, overall very good, awesome. Go see it now.
All right, and Adam, your overall thoughts?
I think there's a reason why many consider this one of the greatest political thrillers ever. For its time, it's a good plot overall, with some fantastic camera work and screen direction. But I think when you stack up the events that were around it, not just the Red Scare, but the fact that, I guess to this movie's benefit, the Cuban Missile Crisis happening the same year.
This summer, the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I think, I think it also keeps you guessing if you go in blind.
Yeah.
I can't recommend going into this movie blind enough. So, do we want to just go ahead and just say, if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend it. But stop watching the video.
Yeah. Well, I
podcast.
think
Yeah. It's definitely big spoiler warning, and we do encourage you to watch the movie before actually hearing the rest of this podcast, just because it's so good.
So not only are we having a different beginning, we're kind of sectioning off the podcast with this one because, go into this blind, please. Go completely blind. Just a basic idea of the plot elements, because it is really damn good if you go in that way.
Also, if you're one of those people, don't let the fact that it's black and white or older than the fact that you were born dissuade you from seeing. Don't see the Denzel remake first. It's decent, but watch this one. Yeah. But that's my warning.
I think this would be spoiler free. The fact it was black and white did not detract from anything. I think honestly probably made it a little better because no, I'm going to say that for later, but yeah, I think it made it better being in black and white than anything else, because
I completely agree, but there are people who just won't give a movie the time of day because it's in black and white, and that's sad. But that's the society we live in.
Yeah.
What's it? We live in a society meme, haha. Okay.
Not the memes, they'll come after us. Anything but the memes. Alright.
Alright, so spoiler warning, we're about to get into that section. Just kind of summarize the whole movie. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, highly recommend do that first before you listen to this section. Alright, 1, 2, 3, here we go. JJ.
Okay. Alright, so we begin in Korea, and I don't know if he's the... I know that technically he is the secondary protagonist, but he is the main character of the piece. Raymond Shaw, our Manchurian Candidate, essentially, walks into a Korean... What is that? Like
Ambush?
Ambush? Well, no, because remember, before that, he's like scolding all his men because...
Oh, you're talking
drinking.
about when he goes to the... what I'm figuring is probably a brothel.
Brothel. Okay. Well, I wouldn't know if it's like if there's some sort of because you're a little more familiar with roughly the time period. I don't know of like Korean War in particular, but I know like 1950s Red Scare is like your jam. So I didn't know if there was some sort of like I don't know special thing that this kind of thing was called.
It's either a flop house or a brothel. It's where GIs go to relax.
Okay. So yeah, place where they go to relax. Our Manchurian Candidate Shaw is scolding all of his men because we just find out just from the first sort of scene with him, he's an ass. He knows he is smarter, or at least he knows he is smarter than everyone else, and prefers to show it. Does not ever want to have any fun. It kind of pays off later because one of his men. That Shaw is scolding says to another one of his men is like, oh, does the sergeant ever indulge in anything here in the brothel? It's like, oh no, him with a girl, which really kind of comes to fruition later on when you're learning more about his backstory, which is really good. We go into the ambush scene. We get to meet our primary and not antagonist. Well, I guess secondary antagonist because you do get to see him, the translator there who is the one that turns him in, who is supposed to be Korean.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, wow, totally Korean. I mean, those... what? I mean, okay, I understand 1950s, 1960s, you're kind of cast anybody, and you just say, oh, anybody who looks vaguely foreign, foreign in giant quotation marks, and you just say, oh yeah, they're whatever thing they are. I assumed he was like Russian or some sort of something of that nature, which would make sense for Korean War. They're fighting communists. He could know Russian and Chinese. So that didn't take me out of the movie. It's just later on they say that he is Korean and he's speaking in this awful faux Korean accent, and I'm just going, all right, I was with you through the brainwashing, through the guy who looks like a Pulp Fu Manchu villain, and actually loving the Pulp Fu Manchu villain, but just that one was a little odd. So, all right, so Shaw's unit gets ambushed, and they all get knocked out. We see them getting transported on helicopters, and then we cut to
opening credits.
Opening credits, yeah.
Which is refreshing.
Yeah, it's been forever since I've seen actual opening credits, and especially opening credits with a cold open is kind of interesting for this time period, because normally you just like opening credits and then the movie.
I mean, different genre, but it's very like almost like James Bond-ish.
Oh yeah.
I mean, completely different movies. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying that James Bond has a habit of doing that cold opening and then credits.
Yeah. But I mean, like that seems like 1950s. Normally you have, or at least in my brain, I think 1950s you have, the big sweeping, almost play overture with credits. And then you get into the movie itself. I can't think of, at least off the top of my head, like I guess Touch of Evil would be the credits while the movie's going. I can't think of like a cold open and then credits like during that time period, off the top of my head at least. But It was nice, very refreshing. If I could speak, it'd be fantastic. No, it was very nice and refreshing to have the opening credits, because it's something you don't see a bunch anymore, because most of the time it's just like, and boop, movie. It was funny, Adam actually made a comment about his father kind of being used to that time period of movies and just deciding, even now, even though most movies don't have opening credits, he still wants to fast forward through the opening credits. It's just...
I have to keep telling my dad that this is the movie. It started. The beginning of every movie.
Just force a habit. You gotta keep going. Now... Alright, so we cut to... It's Shaw coming back on the plane, right?
He just received the Medal of Honor.
Just received the Medal of Honor, and he's coming back on the plane, and we get to meet his mother and his stepdad. His mother is played by Angela Lansbury, and I just... I will admit at first, because she reminded me of which is kind of screwed up, that she reminded me so much of my own family members, and then Michelle reminded her of hers. It was a bit like, I don't like this character, but at the end that was pretty damn satisfying. So
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I know. I'm very happy. That was probably one of the reasons I was surprised and happy at the end. Anyway, so we meet her, and she is just this wow.
It's a hard word to say.
Okay.
Manipulative?
Yeah, that
and
one.
Controlling.
Yes. Damn. All right. For the Manchurian Candidate that caused me to lose my mind, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to go pick up a Red Queen to get rid of the programming, and be right back. So, but no, we get to meet her, and she is those things because I can't speak right now, so I'm not going to bother trying. And we get to find out that his stepdad is a senator who is just basically a drunken asshole the entire time.
I thought you were just going to call him Joseph McCarthy. At that point.
Yeah. Because we don't quite know how McCarthy... that he is Joseph McCarthy, but we don't know that yet. It's mostly just like he is so drunk all the time. And we also get to have the running gag of everyone being, well, I wouldn't say gag, but the running theme of everybody being damn sweaty. Like, it's one of those funny little things, and I'm sure it's showing how nervous all the characters are, except for, I don't think his grandmother's never sweaty, and I don't think the programmers are ever sweaty. But it's interesting to see, like, all the other people that, like, anytime they're sweaty, something's off, something's wrong. It's just a funny little thing because it's an amusing trait that you don't really see used in movies, because a lot of times movie stars don't want to have, because it doesn't look very good. So a lot of times you'll see movie stars done up in makeup, and that's probably one of the reasons for the makeup, is to prevent them from sweating under the lights. So it was one of those funny things to see. So Shaw has a tantrum essentially on their private jet and says that I'm going away to New York and becoming a newspaper man, essentially.
Not only a newspaper man, but for a newspaper man that says nasty things about Johnny's stepdad.
Mommy Dearest, too.
Yeah, Mommy Dearest.
So, yeah, no, that was pretty good. And apparently the whole reason he got the job is because he hates his mother as much as the newspaper man does. So, that was pretty great. Then we cut to arguably one of my favorite scenes, but there are quite a few in this one, where it is Frank Sinatra's character. Marco. Is he Major?
Major Marco.
Major Marco. He's in bed having a dream, and then we cut to actually seeing the dream, and it's the it's the doctor who essentially programmed them, showing off what he has done to Shaw and Marco's company. Was it a company? I guess, yeah.
Whatever a group of 8-10 men is.
Okay, so their group. I'm gonna go with company because that's the only one I can think of. And you're cutting back and forth. The scene starts with you're seeing Marco and Shaw and the rest of their company in a hotel lobby, and the it's like a woman giving a lecture on petunias, or petunias and plants. And then slowly, as the camera moves, it's showing more of the audience, and the audience is like hearing this. And I'd love to. I was kind of distracted by the fact, like, why is there an audience of like old ladies? I'd love to go back and hear the dialogue that he's saying, because as we move around, we're seeing more and more of these people, and then it gets to back to the company, and we see that is that point we see the woman has changed into the doctor?
Yes.
Yeah, we see the woman has changed into the doctor, and then it keeps going around, and then you see what is actually going on, and it's the doctor and a bunch of
top communist party, Soviets, North Koreans, Chinese.
Yeah.
And what's great is that throughout the scene, it constantly splices together the two visions. So sometimes you get like the woman speaking in front of the Communist Party. Sometimes it's the doctor speaking to the old ladies. Like
sometimes it's just the background where it has like a handful of communist leaders. I think Chairman Mao and
I don't think any of them were in there, but I think top brass.
Oh no, I mean like the pictures in the background.
Oh, Mao and Stalin.
Mao and Stalin, yeah. Like sometimes it'll be like a nice, greenery and hotel lobby, and then sometimes it'll be like the two pictures in the background. It must have been that probably took like a month to shoot, I would assume. Like just the sheer amount of like, okay, we need to get roll of this character saying this during this time and get this set up, and great, wonderfully done, but. Like nowadays, a scene like that probably wouldn't be too big of a deal because you can digitally edit and do whatever. But now, because you're having to splice, or back then, excuse me, because you were having to splice in actual reels of film for all those different little parts, must have been a heck of a thing to do. And it's just wonderful to see something like that. And the fact that it's also a really good scene and great dialogue and really interesting to listen to. And then we get to see... Oh, and I'm forgetting the doctor's name. What is his name?
I don't remember it. I just remember him.
Yeah, the doctor is awesome because he is so gleefully evil, or not even like so happy in his work. Because I'd argue that he's one of those villains that doesn't see himself as evil, but he's just so gleeful.
You need to have a sense of humor.
Yes. Oh, so good. I loved him. So, basically you're seeing how good the training is on Shaw. Shaw actually kills a couple of his, Shaw kills one of the members by just strangling him. Halfway through, Marco wakes up, and is that when he's interviewed? Because remember, there's a section where he's like interviewed, and then we cut to the other person.
So at that point, Marco goes before a committee and talks about his dreams.
Okay.
And of course, nobody takes him seriously. They think this is just like year lapsing stress.
Yeah. Would it still be shell shock then, or had they gone to PTSD? Or that's much later, isn't it?
Well, it's the wars messed with your mind, which is later, and then that's when you go into I almost wanted to call him Joseph McCarthy again.
Just call him Joseph McCarthy because I mean that's what he is.
You get this really great shot of Marco being kind of like a PR specialist, and he comes in and he's like, I have a list of 206 confirmed commies in your party, and it's great because you're seeing not only okay, you have like 3 different views. You see like the room like erupting in chaos.
Yeah.
You see on like the playback monitor that the news have set up. You're seeing Joseph McCarthy.
Yeah.
And then kind of in the background you're seeing the senator like arguing back, and it's chaotic, and it's well shot in its chaos.
Yeah, no, well, and also just that actor's ability to like project with his jowls, I guess, would be like just the sheer amount of was kind of wonderful, because he was really you can see why he would be, because like it's interesting to look at that scene in particular, because you see, the Joseph Tote's not Joseph McCarthy in the room, and he's not really that effective in the room. He's kind of he's kind of getting his point across, but everybody thinks he's a moron in the room. But if you look at the monitor, because of that is playing back what's happening, he is like, he seems like this big imposing figure that is, obviously revealing these secrets to people. And I don't think he's a senator, it's some sort of like, maybe a joint chief or something like that.
Or Secretary of Defense.
Or Secretary of Defense or something.
But I think what you're, I guess, like, getting at, and I agree, I think it's trying to show how, like, McCarthyism got so damn popular in the United States, because, obviously I've never met McCarthy. I've never read a book about what he's like in his personal life, but if you see him on TV being all like brah, 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 and looking like I guess confident, people buy into that.
No, that's I think that a lot of it is like, and I guess that could be the theme for the movie, is what danger lies, or what lies beneath is usually not what's on the outside, kind of like maybe that was a bit weird way of saying that, but don't judge a book by its cover kind of thing, and in this one it's the big flashy bombastic speaker is actually a moron who just gets drunk at parties and dresses up like Abraham Lincoln, which
Iceland, by the way. I know I'm gonna probably slip up and call him McCarthy again, but the character's name is Iceland.
Iceland. Just call him McCarthy. That's what he is. I mean, it's like well, now it's Citizen Kane, the guy that Citizen Kane's based off of.
By the way, I'm sure probably most of you do know, but in case you don't, Joseph McCarthy was a guy in the 1950s who called everybody and everything that he didn't like communist, and it actually worked for a while until somebody called him they told him he had no dignity, and then he went out of fashion. But for a short bit,
wow, he was
pretty powerful.
He was like a guy on the internet calling everyone a Nazi except he used communist, which I think people still do on the internet. So it's
don't go.
Oh no!
Don't go down that.
Anyway,
I see the rabbit hole. Should I go in, JJ?
No, don't do it. Don't follow the rabbit. It's not good. Anyway, so after that, it's after that we cut to who I cannot remember the character's name, but our next member of the unit, and he's basically, his dream is picking up from where
Alan was, I think, his name.
Alan, thank you. Basically, Alan's dream is picking up from
Marcos.
Oh wow. Yeah, like I said, they programmed my brain, and apparently they programmed my brain not to remember anything. Yeah, so they're picking up directly from Marco's dream. And
so he then our programmer asks him to ask Marco to borrow his gun, which of course Marco gives it to him.
Yeah, it's a nice old lady that's in a hotel. I mean, why would you?
Which I also like that the Alan's vision of the lady changed.
Yeah. because the character is African American, so it becomes a room full of like older African American women, still hearing the same thing. But it was interesting seeing from his point of view how the room had changed. That it's based off their personal perception. It was really cool.
And then he asks him to kill a member of his squad, and it's like a kid. Like it's clearly a kid who lied about his age.
Yeah.
And like it's like the most sad thing ever because the kid looks like just like this innocent little like Disney Bambi character. Like he looks like he's just smiling.
Looks like Opie.
He does kind of look like Opie. But then which is I think also pretty shocking for a early '60s movie. Like you don't just kind of get like a lot of times in these old movies. A character gets like shot off screen, or you see like a shadow or whatever. Like you get to see this kid's like brains get blown out and like all over the picture of Chairman Mao.
No, like brains blown out. You get to see the head wound. This one doesn't. The only one it even pulls a kind of punches with is the one of the deaths, like the middle death later on that we'll get to, because all the rest of them, no, they're very graphic, like. It's something you'd see in a more modern movie, which is very interesting. So yeah, basically shoots him in the head. He wakes up, and Alan writes a letter to Shaw describing what happened. Or he doesn't go into full detail of what happens in his dream, but he writes a letter to Shaw. And then before he writes it, we have a moment of hearing the programming that Alan has had sort of kick in, where he believes Shaw is the nicest, kindest, gentlest person that he's ever met.
Which is the exact same thing Marco said when they asked him what he thinks of Shaw.
And I wish he didn't do it quite as on the nose, where it was just like he's normally talking to his wife, just saying like, oh, how upset he is, and then his wife has asked him about Shaw, and then robotically he goes, Shaw's the nicest, kindest, gentlest man that I have ever met in my life.
Well, I think it was effective.
It was effective. I wish that I'm of two minds. Either keep it to where every time someone from that unit thinks of Shaw and says that, they're all robotic, or make it to where it's just a natural part of their speech. Because later on, when Marco says the same line, he doesn't say it in a robotic fashion, which I kind of wish they would have kept for everybody. That just for some reason that particular phrase they all say robotically, maybe until like a certain point in the movie. But no, I mean it is very effective. It's good. I just kind of wish that was I wish it was consistent, or I wish it would feel consistent for everybody. But no, I mean it's a small gripe. It's still good.
So
yeah.
Then, because Marco continuously gets seen as a crazy person, he's ordered to take an indefinite vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And then meanwhile, Shaw's programmers call him back to program or to get him ready for whatever his assignment is, and I really need to know who the actor of this programmer is.
I know, because
he was.
I want to.
He was a riot in the
He was my favorite kind of villain, where he's just like, yes, I'm a villain, but that's just my day job. That's my job. That's what I do. I love my work, and my work is evil. So just I loved it. It was so good.
I think one of my the moment that provided the most levity was when the Soviet handler was well, he must kill someone just to prove who should he kill, and he slowly turns his head back to the Soviet handler. The Soviet handler looking nervous. I think he starts laughing. He goes, "Humor, my good man."
I love okay, so basically throughout Shaw has his first testing his programming where they basically fake the fact that he's been run over by a car, and then that's when the programmer comes in and basically oversees to see how all the linkages are working in his head to make sure he's still a good assassin, essentially. And you get to meet the Soviet handler, like Adam was saying, and the Soviet handler just makes an offhanded comment about how the particular place that they have bought that they are keeping Shaw right now actually turned a profit last year, unlike most of the U.S.'s most of this particular kind of building in the United States. And the programmer's just like, you keep saying stuff like that, you'll start becoming a capitalist, and that'll be, we'll have to take you off somewhere. And then the Soviet guy's just like, and then just like, I'm just messing with you, because the programmer essentially, and I'm just like, I like him. He's good. He's so good.
So his first target is his new boss, which means that he effectively.
We just came in. It's Dr. Yen Lo.
Dr. Yen Lo.
Yeah, Dr. Yen is the best character. So we can, because I'm probably going to keep talking about him, at least for this. He doesn't show up after this. Oh.
Yeah, but, all good things come to an end.
I know. He's so good. I kind of want to find more movies that he's in, because I'm curious, just to see him act some more, just to see if he's that enjoyable in any role.
So his first target is his new boss, which I guess works out in Shaw's favor because he now becomes the head of that paper.
Yeah. Which they don't ever show him really running the paper. He just sort of has an apartment and types up stuff. But I guess that's not really important to the story.
It's more or less to show that Shaw is now a weapon.
Yeah.
So then we come back to Marco, who, after acting like a complete wreck next to Janet Leigh. Jumping ahead slightly, but I honestly thought she was going to be one of the villains because she says that El Dorado thing, mostly because I didn't know the time period that apparently that's phone number. That's like a phone number, a thing. So you actually think that like a loss of translation helped?
Yes, that actually because I kept thinking is that some sort of code phrase she's using, and that is because because this is one of the Sweaty Sinatra scenes. I'm assuming that he's kind of in a trance or something like that. And as a side note, because you get to see it a lot in this scene, even with the black and white, you can still tell how bright Frank Sinatra's eyes are, which is it's really amazing.
What about Lawrence Harvey? I mean,
him too. Yeah.
I'll say this: when I first saw the movie, way back then, a part of me did suspect she might have something to do with it, because their romance, and this is probably one of the movie's weaker aspects. Their romance was very stiff and quick. That's it almost seemed jarring, and so I guess in the back of my mind, I was assuming she must be playing a part, but no, she's not.
No, she's
actually barely in the movie.
Yeah, she just is sort of there because it seemed like maybe they got a note from the studio saying, there's not enough pretty women in this picture. You need to add a couple.
Honestly, I believe it. I mean, if you took out Janet Leigh's scenes, the movie's still fantastic.
You could honestly have all that exposition with him and Marco's commanding officer, and nothing. You could nothing, no difference.
But eventually, Marco does make his way to Shaw's place, and Shaw initially writes him off as crazy like everyone else, until he says that Alan wrote him a note.
Well, you're missing the part where he beats the crap out of the Korean guy.
Oh my god, how did I forget about that? Okay, so we get to see the deadly technique of Sinatra Fu.
Wow.
Why don't you explain this scene?
Okay, so Sinatra comes to the door, and in Sinatra's dreams, he sees this translator who I assumed was Russian, and we get to see his...
I think North Korean.
North Korean who apparently... Okay, I love his introduction. Because he gets hired by Shaw as his valet. And basically, Shaw's secretary comes in and says, "Oh, there's an Asian man here to see you. He said he was with you in the war." And it's like, Shaw goes, "I didn't have any Asian men with us." And just bluster. I assume it's the programmer, because the programmer is... He looks Asian. I'm not sure of the ethnicity of the actor, but as far as I can tell, he looks Asian. It's like, oh, okay, so that's... And my brain was going, wow, that's really weird that the programmer's seen him this public, and he's like giving the fact of who he is to the secretary. That was really weird. And then it shows the guy who is the giant quotation marks translator, and I'm like, he's supposed to be Asian? Are you sure? I mean, are you sure? I mean, come on, movie. So he gets hired, and then that's when Sinatra comes to the door. Later on we have Sinatra come to the door, sees him.
We have the Kill Bill, like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Oh, I'd love to see that scene done with that music. That'd be really funny. It's like this movie done with like modern music. All right, and then we have how to describe it. Okay, if you've ever seen the old Star Trek with Captain Kirk, it is from the Captain Kirk school of fighting where there is useless like tumbles every so often. Knife hands, lots of knife hands, and not even like knife hands, sort of like duck hands too, and just like flailing about. The one actor playing the Asian man seems to at least like understand martial arts stances a little bit, just like a little. He has seen a book about them maybe once. Sinatra's just like, I don't know. I put my hands out in front of myself and like. I sort of do things.
I'm calling it Sinatra Foo.
It is Sinatra Foo. I will admit the best part was you like giving the song titles like
at the moment where they're having like a pause and he's like and now the end is near and so I draw the final curtain.
That was the best part. That's the nice thing about this movie. You can make fun of it just like during the dialogue bits, and it doesn't take away from
I'm gonna make your head go ring-a-ding-ding, pal.
That was probably my favorite. And the best part was when Sinatra was getting his ass kicked too. It was really good. But no. So we have the fight scene, and Sinatra and the other guy. Like the Sinatra ends up somehow just kicking the crap out of the guy over and over. And he's asking like, how did
those ladies turn into Russians?
How did the ladies turn into Russians? How did what was Shaw playing with? Because that's the other thing. Back in the flashbacks, we see Shaw essentially doing object work. It looked like he was dealing cards, which I was right. He was essentially dealing out cards for solitaire. You find out, and so Sinatra does a Sinatra Foo, and unfortunately. Who the heck calls the cops on him, though?
The cops just show up.
Yeah, they just and bam, they're cops now.
And then we have another awkward scene of Janet Leigh and Sinatra growing close together, I guess. But then that's when we get to the point where Shaw and Marco meet.
Yeah.
Shaw calls Marco crazy until he says that Alan wrote a letter describing the exact same thing. And then they have an emergency meeting at, I guess, the Defense Department, and after both of them are able to identify the same two Communist Party people that were there, it is damn clear what's going on, so they give him the authority to act on it. We talked about this during the movie. I mean, granted, it's spoiler, I guess. It doesn't play into the movie at all ever,
which is kind of disappointing a little bit.
But if if you found out that one of your head officers, like you have definitive proof that he was brainwashed, would you really put him in charge of the division trying to stop the brainwashed officers?
It's like, oh, you're brainwashed. Okay, you know what brainwashing is, so you get to lead the department, even though you could be brainwashed too.
I mean, granted, you could. I mean, there's the argument of, well, at least he's being upfront and honest about it. Yeah, but who's to say that somebody might not trigger him again?
Yeah, and maybe that's the point. Maybe that's a part of his, programming too. That, he says this part of it so that he hides the other programming he's got somewhere in his head or something. No, it was that was a little weird, but I guess it's just like, we need to have Sinatra being the lead of the thing.
Then we go and he's having a drink and a dinner with Shaw, and as much as we're praising, I think Frank Sinatra's acting, because generally we're not used to seeing, it's kind of spotty whether singers make good actors or not.
Yeah.
But Lawrence Harvey shines in the scene because he starts.
Yeah.
He starts explaining about why he comes off as an ass, and I'd be bummed too. He fell in love with the daughter of his mother's like sworn political enemy.
Yeah. And basically through, I can't remember if it's this scene or later on, we essentially find out that the whole, McCarthy, that the Totes Not McCarthy guy is essentially being controlled by his wife. And the wife is, giving him all the info to...
Darling, the one thing you're not good at is thinking. So don't think, let me do the thinking.
So that we get to find out that she was just, controlling and manipulative and just awful. Well, even more so than we find out at the beginning, that she does it with just everyone ever.
Yeah, despite Shaw being head over heels for this girl, she's able to talk him into backing out of the relationship, which it feels like it ruins him. And honestly, Lawrence Harvey. He is really good in this movie, but I think this is the scene, maybe in particular. Actually, there's a few, but this is the scene for me that's where he shines the most.
Other than he's not a very good cry actor, at least in my opinion. But the rest of it is spot on and good, because him interacting with the senator and the daughter that he has a crush on, really good. Because even his, you could tell how awkward the character is by the moment he says, I guess, Senator, I'd like to marry your daughter, even though they've known each other for, an hour or two. And at first you're like, well, you know what, maybe that is a detriment with Sinatra's relationship with that woman, that I thought he was being serious at first, and that they did get married. But then when they all start laughing, I'm like, oh, okay, so he's just... being silly. They were really good. Yeah. The actors were good. Everybody just that whole sequence was great. And then you get to have the mother breaking it up because, political rivals. I really wish you would have known what was in the letter. I
don't think it mattered.
No, I don't. Well, I mean, it didn't matter, but I would love to have known. Just as... Yeah, well... Yeah, part of me just wants to know just because it'd be interesting. I'm curious what she wrote up for him to say. But, great.
And then, I think in a darkly comedic way, we find out what happens when anybody accesses programming.
Oh, yeah.
Because he goes to a bar. He decides to just play solitaire, which solitaire is how the first step of the triggering of his programming. And then the second step is the Queen of Diamonds.
Yeah.
Well, the bartender's going off on this big story, and when he draws the Queen of Diamonds, that's when the bartender's like, and I said, Wiley, why don't you just go jump in a lake? And he just goes and gets in a taxi, drives to Central Park, and jumps in a lake. But that's not important, because what is important is that supposedly Shaw's mother has a change of heart, and has invited her political rival and his daughter to the costume party.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a change of heart, more I can use them now, so yes, I will use them.
Quotations.
Yeah.
Change of heart.
She put in the dried up husk and changed it out for the one made of stone and iron.
And it's great because I don't remember the specifics, but you see her approach her political rival. It's like he's going to run for a primary. Are you going to try to stop him?
I will spend every dollar and fiber of my being to prevent him from taking the nomination.
It goes on and on, and he's like, just in this deadpan, calm voice. Yeah. I felt so much hate from that character. Yeah, it was great, and obviously this doesn't please her. So then you get the first of two of the biggest twists in the movie.
Mm-hmm. You get to basically she takes Shaw off into a parlor room and says, "Dear, why don't you play some solitaire to pass the time?" Which is one of the big. I think that's like a big trigger. Is like him hearing that phrase, and that sort of kicks him off. And then he sits there and plays solitaire, and you're like, "Wait, does she know?"
Turns out she's his American handler.
Yeah. Which I'm like, oh, okay. I did not see that one. With a very good little twist, because it doesn't come out of nowhere. You can kind of look back and see, because of how much she likes to be a puppet master with everything, it makes sense. But you don't really think about the gung-ho, giant quotation marks, American senator's wife who's, calling everyone a communist to be a communist, or at least like working for him. So no, very good. And then we have that whole scene, and basically she has to go and finish talking to, I think, the senator, and leave Shaw like halfway through his programming. But she takes the Queen of Diamonds, so nothing should be able to snap him out of this suggestible state. But Shaw's long lost love comes in, and she's see, okay, another thing, I thought she was gonna be in on it too, and the whole point of like her wearing the Queen of Diamonds outfit was to make sure that they got married. But I don't think that has to do anything with the movie. She didn't actually want them to get married at all. That was just a ploy to get him at the place and the senator, so we can have that later on. But she's dressed as the Queen of Diamonds, which knocks him out of the his day's stupor, and they end up going off and getting married and meeting Frank Sinatra's character back at Shaw's apartment,
who's there to try to offer him protective custody.
Yeah.
Because he has found out just from watching him jump in a lake how to activate him. So
yeah,
he wants to do that. Shaw's new wife pleads with him just to give her 2 days if he's really sick, and unfortunately he does, which
I was just like, dude, come on, you were so close.
JJ, how wrong does it go?
So wrong, all the wrong. I mean, wow. Shot through the head, wrong. Because, I mean, they go off, they have their honeymoon, and they have a scene between them, Shaw and his new wife. They've actually turned on the TV, and you get to see more of Totes McCarthy actually petitioning to impeach Shaw's new wife's father, who is still a senator and just doing all this awful stuff. So Shaw finally, I guess gets a backbone and says, I'm going to go and beat the hell out of my stepdad, essentially, just for doing all this awful, awful crap.
You wait here. And then later that night, he shows up at their place.
Mostly because his mom, oh, here, play.
Oh, good, you're back. Hey,
Hey,
Salter.
Here's a card. He's like, oh, so yes, his next sort of assassination target is the senator, father-in-law senator. He was the nicest senator that I've seen in film in a while. And he's just like, he's like, oh, I'm so happy to have you in my family, Shaw. And he's taking him back to the kitchen, pouring him some whiskey. And some reason he gets out milk. I guess he's making some sort of mixed drink. I don't know. And then Shaw shoots him through the milk with a silenced pistol.
And then double taps him in the head. And then when his new wife comes down the stairs, he turns around and pops her in the head.
Oh, which leads to an awesome scene where, after he shoots her in the head, he's stumbling out as though he's having a really tough time walking. And then we have a shot outside of the senator's house where you get to see just the tears streaming down Shaw's face because somewhere deep in his brain, he knows what he has done, but he still can't stop himself. So good. And I think you didn't even see it the first time you watched the movie.
First time I watched the movie back then, I didn't see it. So kind of it's like, whoa, that was really good. So then after hearing the news, Sinatra realizes that he's made a mistake. He's not going to make that mistake anymore. So he takes his loaded deck full of 52 Queen of Diamonds to Shaw and finds out the whole story, finds out what the dreams really meant, found out that he did in fact murder every person he murdered.
Yeah.
But then he also revealed that he still doesn't know why he's being activated. All he knows is that whatever he's being activated for is happening tonight at this grand assembly of politicians. So Sinatra shows him the entire 52 cards and says, okay, so you see this? Me and all 52 say that the wiring doesn't exist anymore. You don't follow these anymore. You're free. You're your own man. Not knowing if that's going to work, he gets a call from his mother and says he has to go. Sinatra offers him a number to call when he finds out what his handler wants. And then he leaves. Now, JJ, I'll leave you to tell how this movie ends.
All right, so he leaves to go and see his mother, and his mother explains the exact point he has to shoot the presidential nominee in the head to be the most effective, and she's just describing, the particular point that he's going to shoot the guy in the head, and how his father-in-law or stepdad will then pick up the body and give this rousing speech that they've been working on here in the U.S. and over in Russia to be the most, moving speech ever possible and to be the most moving image because his stepdad will be cradling the dead body of the presidential nominee in his arms and just describing this whole sequence of events that she has played out in her head. And then you get to find out that essentially the Russians / Chinese, I guess they're North Korean,
the communists.
The communists did not tell her that her son was going to be the one that's going to be the assassin. That they did it in order to make sure she would do as she was told, and then she basically goes, how foolish they were to try and mess with me. That I will essentially just turn you on them after we're done here tonight. And just wow, okay. Great scene by Angela Lansbury, by the way. I could have just wow. Again, another very gleefully evil villainous in this case. And then there is a confusing part. Because Shaw's disguise to go into the convention is a priest's outfit.
Right.
Okay, why priest outfit? I still don't get that one. Just in a... Wouldn't you remember a random priest or like say, hey father, why are you wandering around the presidential convention with a big briefcase that totally doesn't have a 2-part sniper rifle in it?
Well, to be fair, it also doesn't make sense because he's going in while literally maybe a grand total of 7 people are there.
And nobody stops him, nobody questions him. I mean, honestly, he could have just been a maintenance guy. Just dressed up as a maintenance guy. You still got the big bag. That part was really confusing.
Regardless, though, he sets up.
Yeah, he sets up in his sniper's nest that is a no longer used like spotlight area. Sinatra's sweating bullets again in this sort of like arguably command center that he's gotten set up, where he's put wiretaps down. You're seeing all the wires going back and forth that they've drawn in extra power and so on. Finally gets to a point where he assumes Shaw's not going to call, and they Frank Sinatra and his commanding officer go to the convention and start to try and find Shaw. But unfortunately, they have to stop because the national anthem is going. And this is American as can be, so you got to stop for the national anthem. While, Shaw's putting together his Russian sniper rifle while the music's going. Which, I wonder if that's one of the first times you have that scene. The assassin putting together a sniper rifle while music is blaring. I kind of want to look that up because that scene now is like, oh yes, you have to have the assassin put together his like multi-part sniper rifle while it's about to be while some big music is going. I think The Man Who Knew Too Little it was a better one because it had like the whole cymbals clashing as his point when he was going to shoot the guy. So you had that, it was Hitchcock, so you got to have some more tension in it. But so he's putting together a sniper rifle, and there was one point I was kind of confused, but it makes sense at the end. Shaw turns on the light in his little sniper's post. And I'm going like, wait, aren't you going to see that right away? Why would he do that? Because at this particular point in the movie, I'm assuming Sinatra's going to bust in and prevent him from shooting the guy. Because that's usually how I've seen this scene go. So right now, I'm assuming he's still under the programming. He's just going to do exactly what he's been told, that he's going to shoot the guy. The end. So Sinatra finally, after the national anthem goes, the lights turn down so the presidential nominee can come up and start giving his speech. And you timed it. They were how far off? Because it was basically, you got told it was 2 minutes after he started his speech that Shaw was to shoot the guy, and it was like, how far off?
Well, if you take away the cough, he's 30 seconds too soon. Mm-hmm. But if you put the cough back in, he's 2 minutes on the dot.
Oh wow, okay, that's really cool. I guess they were the cough must have actually been written into the speech. I guess. So no, Shaw's about to shoot. Or we assume he's about to shoot the presidential nominee. Sinatra is like mere feet away from Shaw as he's about to fire the rounds. The particular point in the speech comes up, and Shaw turns the rifle and shoots both his stepdad and his mother in the head. And I got very happy because I was like, oh yay! They didn't just have Frank Sinatra coming in and being the big damn hero. The guy essentially got to save himself. So
save himself's a loose term with his next action.
Yeah. Now he then puts on his Medal of Honor, and Shaw bursts into the final, sniper's point. He's basically, Marco finally gets into Shaw's area that he set up the sniper's nest in, and Shaw goes, there's no way the army or you could have ever stopped them. I had to do it myself. then turns the rifle on himself and shoots himself. We then have a wrap up with Marco and his... What even is her character?
Janet Lee, Rosie.
Rosie. Oh, that's right. She's got some weird French name.
Explanation for her name.
Yeah. Because I still assume that had to do with something. And maybe that was the point, to make you think that she had to do with the programming. So you have the wrap up where he describes everything. And, okay, was he reading an excerpt that had Shaw's, history? Or was that just some random guy's history? I didn't quite understand that one. The book he's reading at the end.
I think that was written Shaw's history, but then he added to how Shaw deserved the Medal of Honor.
Okay, yeah. And then, our movie fades to black. And in credits.
There you have it.
All right. So next section, our final section, is going to be the best and worst moments of the movie. JJ, you want to go first?
Oof. Okay, I will. I'll pick 3, because this one I really got into. So I'll pick 3. I'll go for best. I'll pick 3. So I think in ascending order. Ooh, and this is a tough one. Definitely the scene of the assassination of the senator. Fantastic. But I'm afraid it's at the bottom of my 3 favorite ones. Just the overall, the way it's shot, how calm Shaw is, how everything just fits together. Even the slight silliness of Shaw shooting the milk, but that is a great way to show the blood splatter without doing the blood splatter. Even though I couldn't get over the makeup for the senator, you got to see the bullet hole in the side of his head, which you don't see in movies of this time period. Then I would have to say the dream sequence / showing how they've been programmed, the cutting back and forth, the intermixing of all the different elements to where you're not quite sure because it made a dream sequence without having to have any kind of weird filters almost, which is really tough to do because you're just showing bits and pieces that it's fragmented and you can see why he believes it's a dream. And then my favorite is the very end, or not the very, very end, but the climax where Shaw, instead of shooting the presidential candidate, shoots his mother and the other guy in the head. I was pleasantly surprised in the fact that they had it to where he was able to do that himself without it being Sinatra coming in and tackling him and doing all this, maybe more Sinatra foo or something.
The look on your face when
I was so happy. I was just
they were shot.
Yay! Because I was so worried it's going to be one of the. Well, I guess in a modern film you'd have to where she gets away for the sequel or some bullshit.
Well, that's how I feel like political thrillers are today.
Yeah.
And on top of that, every time a pop culture reference to the Manchurian Candidate, it's they lie about it, like he would go through with it.
Yeah, I think that's, and maybe that's something interesting for this film in particular, that they've stolen the wrong things from it, almost it's just so good that they don't need to. The assassination part is kind of mad by comparison to the actual programming part of it. The fact that he goes and assassinates people, it's kind of interesting. The fact he doesn't have any guilt, but the overall how he gets to that point is so much more interesting than the actual effects of it, I think. So no, those 3 are my 3 favorites of the whole thing. Yeah, I mean, the rest of it's really good, but those are my top 3. Mr.
Nice.
Adam.
Nice. I honestly think that I have one. I mean, I love the whole movie, but my favorite scene is the dreams of them being programmed. Just because of the fact that it was so creative how they were able to blend reality.
It was like very David Lynch-esque, where you can't quite tell, but without any camera like buggery. They didn't put some like Vaseline on the lens or something weird. It was just like the shots were taken as themselves, and it was
seamless.
It was seamless, yeah. Which is, God, especially for the time period.
Like it just shows a lot of creativity in both its storytelling and visual. Being visual.
Mm-hmm.
That's easily my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a couple more movies from this director. I think we'll have to look him up now.
John Frankenheimer.
Oh, I think we're gonna add a few more because that was too good, and I'll have to track him down. But yeah. But what else?
I mean, even though that was my favorite part,
yeah.
I really liked the tragedy of Raymond Shaw. Going through the entire tragedy. Because like Marco, I almost feel like I don't want to call him like a stand-in for the audience because he's not entirely that. But he is an outsider observing. Granted, he went through the same thing, but I feel like his sole role was completed, which was just to say how much of a hero Shaw was. Yeah. Watching Shaw being manipulated and broken by not only the enemies of the United States, but his even own internal enemies like his mother. It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so good.
As for least favorite thing, I think you and I maybe agree on this. Janet Leigh, I love her to death. She's one of my favorite actresses. Yeah. But literally, her role could have been cut from this movie, and the movie would have not really been any worse for it.
The only thing that I can see her being kept around for, or the only boon from her existence, was my ignorance in like old phone numbers. Because I really thought the Eldorado 456 or something, Eldorado set of numbers, was Marco's like trigger to do something, but I don't think that was what it was meant at all.
You see, what could have been, I think, justifying her role is if there was a hint of doubt that she was a plant or she was an operator for Marco.
Yeah.
But the movie never explores that. I think it's clear by the end that she's not. But I feel like that could have been interesting if not only do you leave maybe breadcrumbs to guess for the audience, but maybe even Marco himself is debating whether or not she is or not a plant.
Yeah, it needed to kind of play around with her character a little bit more.
Because as it stands, she could have been cut and the movie would have been fine.
Yeah, it probably wasn't executive saying, there aren't enough pretty girls in this movie. Because
I mean, look at this poster. Frank Sinatra and Lawrence Harvey, great, but are they going to romance each other? No. What are you kidding?
What is this? Some time far off in the future where we have those kind of things? Come on, man. No, yeah, that her part. Well, also the funny thing is, I almost wonder if her sections were added later a little bit, or I guess that's more a modern movie thing. But because she's never mentioned. I don't think does Marco ever mention her to Shaw?
No,
she's never mentioned to Shaw.
Nope.
Her parts come at the. I'd have to look it up. Okay, yeah. So.
All right, well, that's it for our review. So what are we going to be reviewing for next time?
Yay, it's one of my movies.
Awesome.
Finally.
Yay.
What is it?
The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I've been interested to see this one, especially since Dune recommended it to me.
Okay, so
awesome.
You want to...
All right. Well, next time, join us again while we review the good, the bad, and the weird. See you next time.
Woo! One of my movies.
Finally.